We're sitting with our friend Michael Brauer. Michael Brauer's been a Antelope user for many years, a fan of clocks. We switched him to different converters. You tell this story very well on our new video as part of our presets from the Pros series. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Before we get into too much Antelope stuff, let's just get caught up and get up to speed with Michael and what's going on. Are there any new bands that you're working with or new projects that are kind of cool that you could share some info about?
There's a couple of really cool bands. One that just album's coming out pretty soon called Low Moon. Just great music, great hooks. 4-piece band. I love them. And then on the other side of the water in England is a band called Marmozets that coming out with a new record. Just great rock. Love it.
You're using the Ryan 32 HD now on those two projects and also some of the effects. Have you used some of those as well?
Oh, absolutely. For whatever reason, you guys just keep coming up with great gear, and I want to keep using it. I think between you and Igor and the whole team, the quality of the sound is just so amazing. And it all started with the clock, and I had no idea what the clock really did until you came by that day and said, "Here, let me show you what it's like with your clock and then our clock." And I was like, whoa. But now, many years later, when you call me and say, "We've got these EQs," and I go, "Oh, good, I can insert them." He goes, "No, it's got to be separate. It's basically like, hardware inserts." And I was like, "I don't understand, but they're software." And, he explained it to me, and I said, "All right, well, let me hear, what do you have?" He said, "Well, we've got, Neve and the Pultex and the Lang, and then the Altec, the modified Altec, right? That's kind of the Abbey Road mod on there."
We have the Liverpool, which is partially based on the Altec. Then we have the actual ALT, I guess we're calling it, was it 436 C? I think that's the model. And and then there's a bunch of other stuff that you're going to be getting the Tube Child 670. You're going to be getting some other new stuff on your interface in the next couple weeks as well. So there's more coming. There's more cool stuff coming, and also that BA6A that's there. So let's dive into the presets a little bit. Just in your general, if you could share a little general reaction to hearing them, because I know you were like, "Man, these sound like hardware," and they are hardware powered on that FPGA. And then maybe even specifically, I know that Shimmering preset's getting a lot of buzz. That just came out Monday. We just released the preset package from Michael, and it sounds like we have a kind of a classic in the making there with that Shimmering Piano preset. So while you're talking about that, I'm actually going to open it up real quick.
For many years, I loved getting a particular type of piano sound, even in the early Luther records, the Aretha and many others. It was a piano sound that I loved, that I heard on the early Elton John records as that shimmering piano. And we learned at Media Sound how to get that. And I really could never do it on any of the software. It just didn't work. And then when you gave me this batch of presets, it was, there's 2 or 3 different ones, right? One of them, I think I did 3 different piano sound. One is called Shimmering, one's called Intimate, I think one's called Full, and I think, right? And frankly, I don't remember how I made those. I just futzed around with different compressors, because one of the things that I used to get the shimmering sound with an LA3A, but you haven't released an LA3A yet, right? So I found something else, and I think it might have been the 176 that you had. But anyway, it was, that's the Full, which is the Shimmering. But that one, leave that one alone right there. That one is the 176 with a Lang. I got to tell you, that Lang is ridiculous. That is just the greatest sound, and I don't know that actually anybody's even done a Lang yet, right? Everybody's done a Pultec, but no one's done the Lang. And I don't know which Lang you had that you modeled that from, but that was a really, really good Lang.
That I can definitely tell you about because I did those sweep measurements myself in LA. There were 2 units at El Dorado they were going through some renovations, El Dorado studio in Burbank. And they were kind enough to loan us the 2 units, while they were renovating. And I brought them over and just ran sweeps through both of them. And then because they're all a little different, as you know, they're all going to sound a little bit different, or they're all scaled a little bit slightly different, or at least the levels have to be, optimized with that screw in the middle of it, right? So we just kind of swept 2 of them and then extrapolated between actually 2 units, because how do we know which one is really the sweet spot? But I know that you, Mick Gazowski, also everybody in our series, which is Michael Brauer, Mick Gazowski, Greg Wells, Brian Viberts, all 4 of you are just gaga over that Lang, which is awesome. So we'll talk about hits. But yeah, you got on the full here, you've got the 176 and the Lang.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that at Media Sound, we had nothing but Pultecs and then 2 Langs. And they weren't all that popular because they were so aggressive, but on the other hand, that's what made them so cool. And I totally forgot how unique the sound was until you provided those presets, and then I started playing with it, and the mid-range, it is just, it's so real sound. It's so analogish, it's like, it really sounds like hardware. And that's the only way I can say it. I mean, all the GUIs today look fantastic, but what's going on on the engine, and and the boost, and when it boosts, it really, really boosts. So, I thought, okay, maybe I'll get, generally my Shimmering Piano was an LE3A and a Pultec, and I thought, well, let me see. I don't have that, and so let me. Let's see what I got. So for the Shimmering one,
that's a stay level and a Studer.
I end up using the stay level and a Studer.
Yeah, it's a Studer.
Who would have thought? I had, that's the last thing I would have thought, that I can get a nice Shimmering Piano sound. But I was playing through the different ones, and that was the one where I was like, oh, here we go, because what it needs, and I think probably the stay level helped with a slower release. I need that shimmering sound so that it holds on to the harmonics, and as opposed to something that's really quick release. And that particular EQ, well, it makes sense because the Studer is probably a lot more even and gentle, and so you can really bump around. And what frequencies? So it's around 3.5K that I'm pushing, and then probably 10. What's the third piano sound? What's the blend on that? So what's that one called?
You have an Altec and a 1073 on the Intimate.
On the Intimate, right. So on the Intimate one, I've got an Altec and a BAE. Oh, right, interesting. You just put a compressor up and you go, okay, that's close to what I want. And then I would run through different EQs and I go, yeah, that's what I want. So, and it's the same thing with every instrument. I thought, okay, let me try and get a really good guitar sound. And what kind of guitar sound? A nice chord, bright, or a picking, and then I went, same thing. And when it felt good, it's something that reminded me of how I would get a particular guitar sound. I stopped. I was like, this is it. I'll call this one whatever. Yeah.
It's very easy to update it or add a few more presets. Or when we add these other effects, if you come up with some cool presets, we'll just add them to the bundle, if you send them over. So the other thing that's cool about this is, and I don't know if everyone totally gets this, these are presets you're using. They're getting the same preset. They're not just getting the presets, and all of our interfaces have these same models. So they're really using your hardware at that point, which is kind of unprecedented, You could always tell someone to get a piece of gear, but now you can make a whole stack for them. You send it out, they're using it. And then as far as starting points, just starting here and maybe just tweaking its taste with whatever they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that are go-tos for me is I usually start off with the kick and the snare that I have as presets, and then on the bass, because I mult the bass always to 2 channels, one for the neck sound, another one for the body, the low end. So when you see that neck and low, it's not one or the other. I use those in combination, and that's where I start too. And if it's right for the song, I leave it in. If it isn't, then I bypass it and I think of something else. But it starts off, that's normally what I would start with, and it's a cool sound. And what are some other presets? I mean, generally the drums and the bass, and maybe the overheads are all just kind of what I do. And then of course from there on, if I need a brighter snare or a fatter snare, then I just open it up and I change it from there. But it's an easy starting point. And my acoustic guitar, I'm just trying to get something that I normally would have gotten that's clear and punchy, and normally I would have gotten that with my APIs, but I don't think you've done those yet, have you? So you have one. You're on the EQs, yes. So I may have used, right? I think I used. If we open up the acoustic guitar, it's probably the 55. There it is. So there's the API, and since I don't have nobody's really made the API compressor. What is that one? The 525 or 50? No, not the 2500. It's a little one. Anyway, that one, it's really cool. It's got a ceiling mode on it, and it's a great sounding one. And that's been my acoustic guitar sound for 30 years, I think. Yeah. So I found something else. What did I use? I used the 176. But as soon as you come up with the kind of EQs or the compressors that I'm already using, I'll just, switch those out and we'll call it a new preset.
And I guess the other thing that came along with this change was you updated your converters to the 32 HDs. So you had been using, I assume, like the original Pro Tools converters, and then you switched to the 32s a few years back. And so now your 32 HDs, that was kind of step one. It's like, is this sound better, right? Can you talk a little bit about the sound of those and what that's doing for you?
Well, also one of the reasons why we wanted to switch up is because we want to be able to do the inserts without any latency. And the new HDX, right? Yeah, the new ones don't have any latency, and did it sound better? I'm mixing I'm not mixing what I've recorded, so I only get in. My reference is once I start playing it. Did I notice the difference between the older ones and the newer ones? I think we actually had printed something, and then when we got the new Orions, we printed that same song with it, and then we A-B'd it, and it just sounded a little punchier, a little more open. Not night and day, which, why would it turn night and day? Just as long as everything sounds just a little bit better, you're improving. It was exactly like the MX or the M10, yeah, and that clock, right? And I had the original one, the 10M. I said, "Oh, you've got an X? Does it sound any better?" And I said, "Well, we haven't. It does sound better." And I go, "What did you change?" "Well, nothing really. It's just the technology of what we put in. Has been updated, and it sounds a little bit better." And I was like, "All right, well, let me listen to that." And again, I did an A/B test, and it was clearly like the picture just opened up a little bit more. I was like, "Wow." I couldn't believe that it can get better than that. It was just. Oh, right, and then the top end. What made it cool is that the top end, the cymbals and the S's were way more natural. We needed to work less on those frequencies on vocals and stuff. So, yeah, all that subtlety it just seems like the top end opened up even more to, it felt like you were, in the 320 range, and it's good. So no complaints.
We always enjoy. This is like, how many times have we done this? But it's cool because we usually do have something new each time, so it's not having the same conversation over and over. So I can't thank you enough for your time, and look forward to doing it again. And